In the 1950s, France was trying to regain Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. As a result, many peasants in Vietnam did not like this, so they fled to China. In China, a leader rose in Ho Chi Minh, and he supported communism. He then later went back to his home country and tried to influence communism, and he got followers of communism, and he also formed the Viet Minh. And as a result, people started to become rowdy, and France did not like this, so they sent in troops to help take down any communist followers. However, some people in southern Vietnam were still against communism, so Vietnam was divided between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. In order to stop the fighting between these two, many countries talked about peace between the two. However, they wanted to hold a voting by electing one leader for all of Vietnam. They agreed to this, so the North voted for their candidate to be Ho Chi Minh, and the president of southern Vietnam, who was Diem at the time, canceled the elections right away. After the cancellation of the elections, the Viet Cong then formed in southern Vietnam, and the Viet Cong were for communism. Ho Chi Minh supported the Viet Cong, and he influenced what they did. The United States then sent money to Diem to help support him in any of his fights against communism. President Diem then imposed harsh laws against communism and the Buddhist people. Some of his harsh laws included imprisoning them, as well as murdering some of them. As a result, the Buddhist people then protested, and their form of protest was by burning themselves in public, which resulted in their deaths. The United States then saw, in order for the war in Vietnam to have any progress against communism, that Diem would have to be taken out. A coup of military for the United States then captured Diem, and later he was assassinated. The coup of military personnel that had captured Diem went against President Kennedy's will. Later on, Kennedy would be assassinated by Oswald. Lyndon B. Johnson then stepped up as the President of the United States. He believed that the war in Vietnam needed to continue to be supported in order to fight communism. He then sent military personnel to train southern Vietnam soldiers. Later on, the USS Maddox was patrolling along northern Vietnam when a northern Vietnam patrol ship fired at the USS Maddox. The USS Maddox then destroyed the patrol ship, and a few days later, the USS Maddox was once again patrolling along northern Vietnam when crew members reported seeing northern Vietnamese, and the USS Maddox then fired at what they had believed to have seen. Later, crew members reported that they never saw anything. President Johnson then informed Congress about what had happened and asked Congress for the ability to use all United States military powers against the northern Vietnamese when and if needed. Later on, Congress would pass this. Although not a declaration of war, it still gave the United States some military power in Vietnam. This was called the Tong Lung Resolution. Later on, the United States would bomb northern Vietnamese, and also as time went on, the United States would send military personnel to help southern Vietnam fight against northern Vietnam in a war against communism. And this is what led to the Vietnam War.